So I know how many of you are feeling. You feel like dating sucks. And I understand. and I hope you don't feel that way, but I know many of you feel that way, okay? I know it feels like everything seems so complicated, men seem so difficult, it's just not what it used to be. And, we all wish it was just a simpler process. But it can be simpler. It can be better, and you can experience a lot better results. But you have to understand why things are so difficult. What's creating this frustrating process that many of you are going through. Now, some things are completely out of your control. But my focus is to give you the things that are more in your control or that you can be aware of, okay? And there'll be a couple exceptions on this list so that you can start making some adjustments. Because again, once we accept the power we have to create better results, then that's a lot better than just being a victim of life and saying, oh, there's nothing we can do at all about this. And there's some things. So one of the first things you can start doing that will make dating men a lot better is focusing less on the outcome and more on the experience. So here's what I mean. Let me first start off by saying, I don't want you to confuse that with just go with the flow. Don't be intentional in your dating, getting caught up in situationships that last years only for you to feel cheated, used, and taken advantage of. Because many of you are finding yourselves in that situation, and it's not healthy for you when that's not where you really want to be, right? So I don't want you to think that's where I'm pushing you towards. What I mean by focusing on the experience is more so with those initial dates, okay? And what I'm noticing from a lot of women is that just going on the date, especially that first date, can be so nerve-wracking because we're worried about it working out and if we'll find the one and we're hoping and maybe even fantasizing about this dream outcome. But then we're forgetting about the actual process of the date. we're forgetting about actually enjoying yourself. Like, if you go on there worrying about the outcome, then you won't be able to be present in the moment. And it's being present in the moment that will allow you to be more involved, bring a better energy, and also enjoy it. Not to mention, by not focusing so much on the outcome, when the date itself doesn't go well, and when I say doesn't go well, meaning it's not a love connection. You go on this date, maybe you had a good time, maybe it was a great dinner, whatever the case may be, but ultimately, it wasn't the right guy. When you are focused on the experience, you can take that more in stride and it doesn't discourage you for your next experience. But when you're focused on the outcome and it doesn't work out, now you're discouraged by the lack of the outcome that you wanted. Now you get to a point that you develop what I call dating fatigue, and you don't feel like going out anymore. And you feel like, oh, it's never the right guy and it's just taking forever. But that's not how you should be looking at it. Enjoy and learn. And that's a big one. Learn. Learn about yourself. Learn about, not even just learn, but learn how to be more of who you really are, how to flow naturally in conversation with this man. Because there's a lot of women, when they are focused on the outcome, who go into these dates and they don't realize they come across as interrogating the man. That's not a pleasant experience. And so even if, we have to understand that even if you are dating a potentially good candidate, if you come with bad energy, if you coming across too tense, difficult, it can throw everything off. All right. So you want to relax, enjoy, and again, focus on the experience. Now, I also have to throw in there that focusing and enjoying the experience does not mean taking dates just for free meals or because you're bored. Now, I know some of you would say, come on, Stefan, we would never do that. Okay, you specifically, but there are people who've done it. Some of your friends, whether you realize it or not, may have done it or are doing it. It happens. It happens a lot more than some of you realize. So I have to mention it just in case. And just in case you are that person doing it. I don't encourage that. I'm not co-signing that, okay? But as long as there's a genuine interest or, an openness to seeing where this can go, all right, then yeah, go on that date and relax. And I'm telling you, you will start to just have a better overall dating experience. The date itself will be of a higher quality and the overall process of dating will get a lot better. All right, now the next reason why dating men nowadays is so hard is because you're not creating enough opportunities for yourself. So I can't even count on one hand. There's too many times to count. Or maybe a better way to say it is, if I had a nickel for every time a woman says, this dating sucks and I can't meet no men, and I ask them, well, what are you doing to meet men? And the response is nothing, I'd be a billionaire right now, okay? I'm exaggerating, but you get the point. Like, so many women who are frustrated with dating aren't even putting themselves out there, okay? They're not creating opportunities. Now, let's start with, and when I say real life, I mean in-person physical opportunities. So getting out, going out places. Many of you aren't taking advantage of that, aren't finding ways to get out there. Now, I don't think the focus should be so much on go out to meet a man, so to speak. Because I always say the best place to meet a man is where you're happiest. So I want you just to get out the house to enjoy yourself, okay? But in enjoying yourself and doing things that you like, you are creating more opportunities where you can meet individuals out there, men and women, whether it be for friendship, work, but also for romantic reasons. Men that now that could also have a similar interest as you, because let's just say, for example, you love art festivals. I'm just using something random. So by you actually making an effort to go out to some art festivals and then you come across a man at this festival, well, now you met someone who has a similar interest as you, all right? And you have something that you guys can start talking about and kind of start bonding on and then go from there to see if there's more to this potential connection or whatever. So just going where you enjoy, putting yourself out there. And then when you do go out and step out the house, making yourself more approachable, because it's not even just about going out to specific places. The reality is that in the natural flow of life, whether it's at the grocery store, gas station, whatever, right? We come across people. The problem is, for a lot of women, they don't make themselves approachable. Now, I completely understand and respect that there's some scenarios you don't want to be approached. You don't want to be bothered. That's perfectly fine, okay? But again, consider where you can make yourself more approachable to create more opportunities. Or when you are in certain environments and maybe you see a man that catches your eye, and in that moment, you learn how to turn the switch on and become more approachable. Give him a little eye contact, throw a little smile, maybe give a compliment, something, you know what I'm saying? To, again, create, I'm going to keep saying that phrase, create more opportunities. But we're not stopping there. Let's talk about I'm going to use the word dreaded because for a lot of y'all, that's how y'all feel about it. The whole dreaded online dating. All right. Now, I don't think you should dread it. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's a great place to what? Create more opportunities. The problem that some of the problems that people have with online dating is they're taking the wrong approach and they're viewing it the wrong way. All right. Online dating is not some place that can guarantee you a perfect match, even though some of them may advertise it in that kind of way. It's not really what it's about. And it can't guarantee that every man you meet will be serious and of quality. But what it can do is give you more opportunities. And a lot of times life and dating can sometimes be a numbers game. Like over time we meet enough people and then you're going to meet that person that now it sticks. Now it's like, this is it, okay? This hit my spirit, so I feel the need to say this. Now listen, if you are a believer, pray. Maybe some of y'all, it ain't time to be on online dating. So I'm not going to tell you to jump on there if you feel spiritually led to not do it. But some of you are running from it, and you might be surprised that if you pray about it, you will be pushed into that direction. Be open to that. But either way, you got to go on with the mindset of this is just a place to meet people. But also with the mindset of if I'm going to jump on this, I'm going to do it right. A lot of people go online and they're half-stepping. They're not putting a full effort into it. They barely set up their profile correctly. They don't put up good pictures. All these various things that lower their chances of having success and having more opportunities. So if you're going to do it the right way. Put in some effort. I have had clients get married from online dating. So success can be found, but you have to put yourself out there. So whether that's in person, whether that's online, find ways to create more opportunities and again, enjoy the experience of it. And that will make it feel a lot easier, run a lot smoother for you, and just overall be better. All right, so now let's get to the next one. And this next one is one of those exceptions where this is outside of your control, but I want to talk about it anyway. So another reason why dating men is so hard is because a lot of men aren't being honest. Plain and simple. You have men out there who are in relationships, not being honest about it. You have men not being real about where they are in life, their financial situations, their actual intent with you. You know, there's a lot of things that men are lying about. And this creates a lot of frustration. This creates a lot of negative energy within you. This can cause you to be very discouraged. So one, I want you to understand, do not let this discourage you. Understand that though there are many who are lying and being despicable in the way they're going about things, that's not everybody. Do not project that onto all men, all right? There are tons of men who are trying to be honest and straightforward and be transparent with you and are trying to create healthy relationships. So do not let the bad ones blind you from recognizing and acknowledging the good ones. Now, I feel the need to say this real quick, another one of those hit your spirit moments. I feel the need to say, listen, one thing I want women to also embrace, and we'll get back to this whole men are lying thing, is when you say there are no good men out there, or there are no honest men out there, let's be more specific and be honest with ourselves. Many of you know a good man somewhere. Many of you. Maybe not all of you, but many of you. He may not be the good man that you want. Okay? That's a different issue. But you can acknowledge he's a good man. Some of y'all try to put that good man onto your cousins or your friends or someone at church or whatever. So there, you know they exist. But yes, the difficulty is in finding a good one that you want and that wants you as well and that you guys can come together. The reason why it's important is because when we get stuck into that negative talk of there are none, there are none, there are none, then when a good one presents himself, you will have a hard time believing it. You will question everything about it because you're programming your mind to say, no, they're not out there. They don't exist. So now when one is there, it's like, nah, something's got to be wrong with him. It can't be this good. He must be setting me up for a lie later. Okay. Let me also say that I do think to some extent, I don't know if there's anyone on the face of this earth that's never told a lie. So when we call people liars, I'm more speaking of the consistent liars, the people who are saying lies that are significantly relevant to the health of the relationship, the ability to even move forward, these things. Not speaking to the person that the small lie here and there. Not that that's okay. But I do think we have to be honest with ourselves that, you know, again, we've all engaged in it at some point in time. So there are instances where, let's just say, for example, I'm trying to think of an example. Let's just say the guy wasn't completely honest about what he does for a living, and not honest as far as he didn't mention it. But let's say the reason why he didn't mention it was because he didn't know how you were going to take it. Let's just say, I'm just using this as an example that popped in my head. he's a garbage collector. And he's gotten some judgment in the past about being a garbage collector. And so when you asked him, maybe he kind of dodged it, right? If that then comes about that you find out he lies, do I think you should just write him off as, oh, he's a liar like the rest of these guys and that? No, I don't think so. Because I think that unfortunately sometimes people get afraid and they mishandle things. In those moments, you have to ask yourself, has he shown himself to be a man of good character in general? Has he been showing up in this process of dating or relationship the way that I need to in general? And this is kind of an outlier issue? Or is this an example of, or is this an extension of him consistently lying in other areas or consistently not showing up the way that he needs to, consistently not being intentional in what we're doing here? Then I would say, okay, you take that lie, not as in that specific issue killed it. It's that was the icing on the cake. That was the confirmation that, yo, you're just dealing with someone who can't keep it real with you. Keep it moving. I just wanted to add that perspective, okay? But ultimately, yes, there are a lot of men who are being dishonest. And I think it's important that you make sure, before I wrap this point up and move on to the next one, we're not excusing the dishonesty that many are engaging in. But if you want to meet or you want a more honest relationship, more honesty in your dating process, then make sure you're being honest too. I can't tell you how many times I've seen women who are overlooking the fact that they're doing the exact thing that man is doing. They're not being fully forthcoming. They are giving white lies, so to speak. They are twisting some truths. But because to them it's validated in the sense of I'm protecting myself or whatever, they don't see it as the lies they are. And they're not recognizing and registering that, well, guess what? If you think you can lie out of protection for self, well, don't you think that man will think the same way? You got to make sure that if you want that in your life, you have to bring it too. So make sure you're being honest, you're being transparent and all these things. But do not be discouraged by those who are out here being very deceitful. All right, so let's keep this moving. And the next reason why dating men is so hard, and this one is very important for me to talk about, I'm very passionate about, is that you aren't trusting your intuition. Now, typically I would have left this for the last point on the list, but I felt like, nah, this one needs to be said a lot sooner before any of y'all get distracted by something else. I am a firm believer in women's intuition. I have not come across a woman who can say her intuition was wrong. I think that there are some women who may confuse their intuition with fear, right? And have allowed fear to dictate their actions and decisions, and that's where they've gone wrong. But true intuition, I have not seen that fail a woman. I've only seen women struggle with embracing it and accepting the blessing that it is. And when you're not accepting and embracing it, it creates more difficulty in the dating process because it leads to unwanted circumstances that could have been avoided if you listened to your intuition. It can help eliminate one of the other issues I'm going to talk about later about men lingering on, but I'll hold that for the later point. Just so much that can go wrong because women are looking past their intuition. Now, one of the things that's happened to a lot of women is that I've noticed is that though you guys understand intuition, sometimes you get so lost into your desire. And what I mean is like you meet this man and you like what you see, all right? Whether that be physical, his resume, whatever. And in your mind, you want this. You want this to work. And let's add even more to it. What he's presenting to you so far is good. Like he's not necessarily showing you a red flag, so to speak. Maybe not a blatant one, maybe some yellows, okay? But maybe not red, or maybe you just don't want to see it as red. That's a whole different discussion. But anyways, things are looking pretty good. You want this. But there's something in you, your intuition, your spirit saying, this ain't it. He's not the one. But because you're so consumed by your desire, you're like, nah, I'm good. I'm tripping. You will now try to say that your intuition is fear, or your intuition is your own mind playing tricks on you, rather than accepting and respecting what it really is. And you push forward, you rationalize past it. And then whether it be days later, weeks later, months later, years later, babies later, marriages later, and the whole thing falls apart. You're able to see, if you're going to be honest with yourself, that you always knew. And it could have saved you a lot. Now listen, I don't want you guys to hear that and beat yourselves up for those of you who've experienced that, who are living it right now. Maybe you're even in a relationship where you ignored your intuition and you're not happy and you're trying to find ways to hold on, but deep inside you know you don't belong there. And that's tough. That's tough to deal with. And it's tough to accept that, damn, if I would just listen to my intuition, I could have avoided this. Let's not cry over spilled milk. Let's not beat ourselves up. Let's just learn from it. Let's figure out how we can do better moving forward. Let's be mindful of these things, all right? That's what's important. Not dwelling in the past mistake is learning not to make that mistake going forward. So tapping into your intuition is going to be extremely beneficial, but also understand that it gets easier to listen and embrace your intuition when you do two things real quick. Heal from your past and get more in tune with God. That to me will unlock an even greater ability to feel, hear that intuition, to embrace it, to respect it, to honor it. All right? So do the foundational work that's going to strengthen you in that area. I also want to say this before I move on to the next point. A lot of times, and what do we call it? Intuition, gut instinct, whatever, right? Inner voice. I feel like we have a tendency as people to wait for it to hit us. Wait for it to tap us on the shoulder and say, hey, don't do that over there, okay? But we have to understand that if it exists within us already, then we can call upon it when we need it. So just don't wait for your intuition to hit you. Tap into it in moments where you need clarity, in moments when you go on that date and even when you feel good after that date. Go into intuition, or even more specifically, go into prayer and talk to God and get in tune with that spirit and get the answers you need, because now the quicker you can gain clarity, the better you can move forward with whatever direction you need to move in. All right, so we got some more, but before we get to it, take advantage of this opportunity to join my special coaching program where you're going to learn how to heal, tap into your feminine energy, meet more relationship-minded quality men, finding your purpose, all these wonderful things and so much more amongst a community of women who are on the path that you're on, that will give you support and love. And we do, live Q&As twice a month and so many things. So much more. Join today. Go to receivingmyblessings.com or click the link in the description or in the comment section. All right. So now I alluded to it. Let's get to it. The next reason why dating men for you has become so hard is because you're letting men linger longer than they should. So if you recall, I mentioned this phrase or this idea I have I call dating fatigue. And you get tired of dating, you get exhausted, you get discouraged. And one of the big reasons why that fatigue kicks in is because you let men linger longer than they should. And when you let these dead-end relationships linger longer than they should, where you create this situation where someone can sap you of your strength, that can leave you in a position where by the time you're done with them, even if the right person comes along, you ain't got the energy for it now. Or you develop negative perceptions due to what you just been through. You create, if you haven't healed from the past, well, you may have now added another situation that adds more issues that need to be resolved. All right. In addition to what happened to you previously. It's just a recipe for disaster when we let people stay longer than they need to. Not to mention that, again, it can turn into unwanted pregnancies, marriages that don't fit together, all kinds of other problems. So when we want to improve our dating experience, we have to learn how to get people in and out as quickly as possible. And I want to highlight the fact that if this is more so about, if you know right now you want serious commitment. Because if you're saying to me, Stefan, I'm not really feeling commitment right now. I don't have time for anything serious. I just want to have some companionship here and there. As a grown woman, that is your choice. Okay? And of course, in those situations, it's more likely to now let some guys linger that maybe aren't the best, and I'm not co-signing this, just explaining it, and I understand why it happens. I still want you to be able to recognize that when you are dating casually in that manner, don't take the negative, if anything negative happens in that situation, don't project that onto a man you're trying to be serious with, because you got to understand you weren't trying to be serious there. So that's going to bring a different type of energy and circumstances and things like that. All right. So recognize it for what it is. But when when your desire is for something serious, then yes, the better you can get at getting men in and out, the better for you. All right. They don't need to be sticking around forever. Going back to that intuition piece, like, a lot of y'all knew on that first date he wasn't it. Some of you knew in the first conversation he wasn't it. Now, of course, yes, be in tune with yourself enough to know when you're just being overly critical out of fear and negative experiences versus you are tapped into your intuition. And that gets easier when you have healed and you resolve past traumas. But you don't need to give people chances that don't deserve a chance. And when I say don't deserve, it doesn't mean they're not a good person. You might meet some guys who are good, nice guys. But if they're not really for you, if it doesn't work, if it doesn't fit, because that's the thing. A lot of times it's not even about this is a bad person or whatever. It's just that we don't fit well together. All right. So some men are going to pass you up because you two are not a good fit. And you're going to pass some men up because you two are not a good fit. It doesn't mean anyone's bad, a dog, a this, none of that. It's just not. It's not going to work here. Okay. And we have to understand that when we try to force a relationship or dating someone that we don't fit well with, we're asking for negative things to eventually come. Because when people don't fit, there's conflict somewhere. It might be as simple as, all right, let's just say you're a woman who wants a lot of attention. Nothing wrong with that. You require a lot of quality time. And you meet this great guy, but he's very busy. All right. Now, if you try to move forward with this man that you don't fit with because he is not capable of giving you the time and attention that you need, and you are not capable of being comfortable with his kind of schedule and work ethic, okay? What you're asking for is a recipe where at some point, people are going to get mad, resentful. They're going to maybe act out. Now these negative things start to happen. Now we have these greater conflicts and it starts to look like this person is just a bad person. No, it's all symptoms of y'all don't fit. And when you don't fit, you're going to have a lot of, I didn't want to use the word, but the word rhymes with fit. Okay. You're going to have a lot of trash. You're going to have a lot of bad stuff happen. Okay. So just be mindful of that and understand that, all right, if you're trying to improve your dating experience. All right, so we got another one and another one after this. But another reason why dating men is so hard for you is you are not embracing your feminine energy. So let me say, I'm not going to get super deep into this right now, and there's other videos I have about feminine energy and the importance of it, but I'm going to say this. When you are walking in your femininity, you're going to experience better things in your life in general. I have women from my membership program who will vouch for this, who have told me, listen, once they made that shift, it has been amazing and eye-opening, from just how they feel, from the attention they get, from the quality of men that are now coming their way, from how even things are with family members and friends. Like, they're just seeing it open up so many doors in so many different areas of their life. Some have seen the power of it in their workplace as well, because there's a lot of perceptions from people that, well, for women, depending on the work environment, it is hard to be feminine. They're almost forced to be in their masculine. But believe it or not, if you can tap into it, you're going to see it can be even more beneficial for you. All right. So getting back to the whole dating process, one, I feel the need to say this. Understand that carrying around a lot of masculine energy is equivalent to carrying around a lot of stress. All right. And it's wearing you down. It's not good for your mental health. It's not good for you physically, believe it or not. It's taking a toll on you. All right. And so you got to release that. And at the very least, I encourage you to find ways to create a better balance. Even if you feel, or let's just say there are some circumstances that you're going to have to walk more in your masculine. Okay, fine. But that doesn't mean don't shut it off when you get home. It doesn't mean don't shut it off in different aspects of your life. And some of that may require reprogramming how you're looking at these different scenarios so that you can see how you can accomplish that and still get what you need out of it. All right. But consider it, start to work on it. And you don't have to wait to meet men to start working on your feminine energy. Because again, being feminine is more of a lifestyle choice. And it's something that you can start doing with, hell, your coworkers, your family, your friends, even your girlfriends. Like it's going to have an impact in all those areas. But by doing it now, you're getting more comfortable with it now so that when you are in the dating process, it's more second nature to you. If you wait till you meet men to work on it, well, then it's like you're in this awkward process while trying to manage this dating experience. Okay. So be open to that. Look at the other videos I have on feminine energy and the books and all these things I have coming out for it, because I'm telling you, it's going to be very helpful and make dating a lot easier. All right. And so one more point I have to give you on why dating men has been so hard is that you're projecting too much negativity. All right. So first, let me say, I understand. I understand that it's hard to have a positive outlook when you are exposed to so many negative things. Maybe your own negative experiences, maybe what you're hearing from other people, what you're seeing on the internet. All these different things shape your perception and can create these negative thoughts that now, whether you realize it or not, you're going to project on the men that you meet. But let me give you some insight real quick. Things are not always what they seem, and you're not always getting the full story. So when it comes to the internet, I think we all know the internet for most people is a highlight reel. You're not going to get the truths. You're not going to get all the dirty stuff. But even when you do get the dirty, bad stuff, you're not getting the other side of it. You don't get the full context of what's going on, what brought about some of these things. So understand there are very incomplete stories on the internet. So we have to be careful with what we take from that to shape our perception of dating and relationships, as well as just very inaccurate information being given. All right, as far as just advice and what the topics that people are talking about on different shows or whatever, it's not complete in its context. So you got to be very careful with that. When it comes to what you're hearing from friends and family, that also tends to be very incomplete stories. One thing I had a revelation about, I've always said that, listen, when you speak to women, you got to understand that they may not always, and not maliciously, but they may not always give you the full story. And if you're thinking, oh, that's crazy or that's wrong for me to say that about women, consider this. Have you ever had a conflict with a woman? And let's just say you have a conflict with this woman and you guys have a mutual friend. And you tell your story to the mutual friend and she tells her story. And when you heard her side of the story, was it the complete story? Like, did she really give all the details, right? There's a very good chance, no, there was pieces missing and you had to fill in the blanks because it's natural where people will give the side that's more favorable to them or keeps them in a more favorable light. But if they have to, but they don't give everything that then might show that they're at fault too. Okay? So you got to be careful with listening to the stories. And yes, even men do this, but I've seen where men do it in a different way in many cases. All right. They might give the stories where they might be more forthcoming about what they did wrong, but they may not see it as wrong. So they'll say, well, yeah, I told her she was this, but what's wrong with that? That's the disconnect they have. But where they do leave out information is where it makes them look weak or where they would lose respect. So like, quick story, and we'll get back to the point. I remember one guy where, he's telling me these women and they're acting stupid and all these different things or whatever. But what he didn't tell me was, and I heard it from one of the women, he was stalking them. Not all of them. There was one time where he got very obsessed. He didn't do anything crazier than that, so I don't want you to think that. But he lost sight of things and he got caught. So it's like, he didn't tell me that part because he knows that part would not make him look good. All right. So a lot of people be leaving out details to stories, and you got to be careful and know how to, if you're going to take that and use that to shape your perceptions, you got to be mindful of, am I getting all the information, or how I can ask the right questions to get a more fuller picture. But all that to say, you got to guard yourself around all those things. Now, the one thing that you know the full story of that's going to impact your perceptions are your own personal experiences. But what I want to say to that is, we've got to learn to leave that experience with that specific individual and not take that experience and project it to the whole group of individuals that they look like. All right. So we can't just have a bad experience with a man and then say, well, all men are like this. That's not healthy and it's not good. And when you start to do that, you start to negatively impact your dating experience. You got to give each individual their own clean slate. Let them show you who they are. So you come in with an open mind. You can become, you can understand the potential pitfalls and be aware of it, but do not project it onto that person. Give them their opportunity to show you who they are and roll with that. And then if there's something special, build on that rather than undermine it with negative things that you've heard, seen, or previously experienced with other people. Hey, thank you for watching this video. Be sure to check this one out right here, and I'll see you there. So here's the deal. I genuinely believe there is a great man that you can experience a great, amazing relationship with, okay? And I genuinely believe